Hello and welcome back to the Wisdom for Humanity podcast series. My name is James Malins, I am the Wisdom Guide, and in this series we're going to be helping you to get from your present state to your desired state through wisdom, knowledge and real life experiences. Now in this episode we're talking about the work-life balance, and the reason why we're talking about that is because there are a lot of people that work 50, 60, 70 hours a week. They've got families, they've got loved ones, they've got homes, and they're working to work. You know, they're not working to live, they're not working to enjoy life, and as much as I can understand situations do call for a specific level of work, we also have to understand that our happiness is paramount. Okay, when it comes to anything in life, whatever we're doing, whoever we are, wherever we are, our happiness is always paramount. And when it comes to working and trying to get ourselves to where we want to be, we've got to ask ourselves some really important questions. You see, I know for a fact that some of you are in jobs that you hate, you don't want to be there, you don't want to be doing it, you wish you could be somewhere else, you know, maybe, I don't know, on a beach, or doing a job that you really want to do, but there's a part of you that doesn't feel like you can. And when you have that limiting belief, and you have that idea that you are not allowed to leave a job, or not allowed to do anything else other than working where you are, you actually end up putting a lot of pressure on yourself. You make yourself feel upset, and you make yourself feel like you're never going to get to a position in life where you are truly happy. So it's really important to have a look at the work-life balance and actually establish in our minds, are we happy? You know, I work a hell of a lot harder than I used to, but I'm happy. Why? Because I'm doing what I love. I loved it. This is work for me, but it's also pleasure. And when you get to the point where your work is pleasure, what you find is that you're no longer bothered by it. You almost look forward to doing it. It's an exciting thing. Yes, things can be physically exhausting. They can take a lot of mental energy. But at the same time, it's still something you love to do. It's something that gives you fulfillment. It's something that gives you joy. And in knowing that, we understand that if we're not happy, we've got to make some changes. So the first thing is having time for all things. And when it comes to our family lives, our hobbies, what we enjoy to do, whether we like to go out and enjoy nature, or we like to go rollerblading, or playing a musical instrument, whatever it is, we've got to find time for it. Because especially with my clients and people I come a lot across all the time, people are, I don't have time for this, I don't have time for that, I don't have time to do this. But the paradox of that is that later on down the line in the future, when you're 60, 70 years old, you'd look back and wish that you made time, because time then becomes something you're conscious of. Now we dive into the whole idea of, is time real, is time energy, is time on a physical timeline, or is it just a esoteric thing? We're not going to be answering that in this episode, but what we are going to be talking about is understanding that, see yourself in 40 years. What are you going to be telling yourself? You know, have that imaginative astral projection into the future. And some people can do it, right? Project yourself into the future. Ask yourself, am I doing the right thing? Should I be spending more time with the family? Should I be spending more time doing what I want to do because I love doing this stuff? You see, we can spend a hell of a long time building someone else's dream, or focusing on the fact that we're working 40 hours a week, or trying to make head nor tail as the reason as to why you can't get out of the place you're at, or you can sit back and forget all of that and ask yourself the proper question. Are you happy? You know, because I know I said, you know, building someone else's dream, and it's always important to have a job, because otherwise how are you going to put food on the table? Okay, so quote, building someone else's dream is actually, well, you know, you're also sustaining yourself and your family. So until you're ready to venture off, it's something you should always look at. But we have to ask ourselves, are you happy? Are you where you want to be? Because if you're not where you want to be and you don't have time for stuff, you're never going to find peace in your life. You know, I find time to play Xbox, I find time to read, I find time to meditate, I find time to go to the gym, I find time to go and do earth walking, I find time to see my friends, to listen to music, to take a moment to myself. And I'm working like nobody's business, creating podcasts, video content, putting out weekly content, quote content, clients, getting on stage, doing interviews with people. I work seriously hard on what it is I do, but this is it. I find the time. So all other aspects of life are still an excuse. And look, again, I might get slapped around the face for saying that, but an excuse is something that you make to give you justification that you can't do what it is that you want to do. I don't care about your excuses. Someone could slap me around the face and say, you've never been through this, you've never experienced it, you don't know what you're talking about, you're ridiculous, and all that kind of really cool stuff. I'm like, that's fine. That's your opinion. But don't forget that it's your life we're talking about. I'm not bothered. Like I said, I find time to do what I want to do. I find time to do all this stuff. Okay? So to me, it doesn't matter. So why am I telling you this? Am I having a go? No, of course not. Just an example of some people. But what I'm doing is I'm showing you that through perspective and through understanding, what it does is it takes a situation from here and flips it all the way around to the opposite side. It's 180 degrees. And in those scenarios, you have to ask yourself the question, okay, well, am I defending myself or am I just making an excuse? Because, yeah, children take up a lot of our time. We've got to spend time with children. We've got to love them, care for them, show them the world, show them how to be, give them the right boundaries, just like we were talking about in the past episode with Jackie. What we've also got to do is take time for ourselves. Because if you don't take time for yourself, you'll end up getting to the point where you're about to die and you'll think to yourself, what have I done with my life? And let me tell you, that's the kind of phrase that gets you to come back here and do it all over again. So, when we talk about higher dimensions, higher purposes, and all these other things when it comes to the work-life balance, you've got to understand that it's your responsibility. And for relationships, if you're in a relationship and you're working 50 hours a week and your partner's constantly moaning at you and they're threatening to leave or they have left you, don't worry about it. But look from the other side. You see, you could say, oh, well, they never loved me, I was working this and working that. Yeah, I understand. But everybody's got to do what's right by them. And I've always said, this might kick me in the future, that if I was with a woman and she turned around and she wanted to leave me, fair enough. Because somewhere along the line I was clearly not giving her what she needed from my end. Or she needed to go and do something else and pursue what she needed to do. So it comes back to the point that we can't control people. It's just not possible. It's just not possible to control people. Again, I get the government, I get all of these things that are put in place to control us and manipulate us, but deep down at the actual level, just where I'm at, people can't control you. In relationships, they can't control you if you don't let them to. And the reason why I don't expect them to leave is because I'm clearly not giving them what they need. So, and it's not a negative thing, it's not sort of putting myself down, because I'm not that kind of person, I wouldn't put myself down. I know my value, I know my worth, but at the same time, all through my life, and I know I'm going off on a tangent here, but I'll explain why. All through my life, I have come to conclusions and realizations that when things were going wrong for me, it was because something better was coming around the corner. And that wasn't no delusion, because I've proved it multiple times. I have had that happen to me so many times now, it's now become a belief for me. So it's no longer a cute little phrase. Just like Jackie said, I didn't read it in a book and just have it, materialize it out of the air. I've proved it. It's become a concept in my life that I live by, and you can live by the same thing. And this is what we've got to realise, that having time for the people around us, having time for people that care about us, and having time for ourselves is some of the most important decisions you will ever make in your life. And we often talk about relationships in a negative light, but people who you absolutely adore, right? And you've both got to work, you've both got to put food on the table, but take time for yourselves. Because that's what this life is about. Book yourself a holiday. Go out there, start a business so that you can work 2 weeks a year and spend 50 weeks of the year just enjoying yourself. You can make it happen. Right? You can make it happen. There's no reason why you can't. There's no reason why you can't love and enjoy life. There's no reason why your job can't be travelling the world. But it's all got to be down to you. It's all got to be down to what you want and what you want to do. Because so many people, they're not taking responsibility for themselves. They are looking outside of themselves for the answer, blaming everything other than the reason as to why they are where they are. And yeah, of course, some situations are examples, but very few. Very few. And when you realise this, and you realise that you can control your life, even if you feel like you're working 42 hours a week and doing nothing with your time, you dictate that. And don't stay in the same place, because a job isn't the end, A lot of people and a lot of parents will go and they'll tell their people, oh, play it safe, be the 9 to 5, stay in the 9 to... I never listened to any of that stuff. Now I'm living my dream. I'm living every moment of it. I love my life, I love the growth I've got, I love the people I'm meeting, and I'm this close to totally revolutionising not only my life, but hundreds of thousands of people's lives in the future. I'm already doing it, and I know I am. It's not egotistical, it's not arrogant, I love it. I love what I do. I love who I am. I love what I can provide. And this is what we have to realise. You have something you can provide to the world. And until you embrace that, and until you fully understand it and get it to where you want to be, it's a painful thing. You've got to realise that who you are and what you stand for, it's got to take you into the future. You've got to understand that. And it comes on to the next part, is what's important to you. What is important to you? Is it your job? I might be slagging jobs off and somebody says, well, I love my job. I want to be the highest of the high in it. If that's so, but you still feel stress and like you've got no time for yourself and no time for anybody else, what you're going to do is you're going to miss out on opportunity. You're going to miss out on these potential things that come into your life that totally change it. And I can't stress that enough. You have no idea how many things that I've been through or I've done or I've experienced, and literally if I hadn't have been there at that moment in time when I decided to be there, I would never have met that person. Probably wouldn't even be stood here talking to you today. So what you've got to understand is that opportunity also plays a huge part in the work-life balance. You might be constantly working, you hate your job, you just cannot stand it, you can't wait to get it out of it, and you can't wait to get rid of the job and get onto something else. But Kevin down the road says he's got a networking meeting for you. Or, I don't know, Barbara, who's over in a couple of towns over, wants you to come round for a coffee to meet a couple of friends of hers, and you don't do it because you want to work extra hours. And those people you were going to meet were going to help you to start a multi-million-pound business. And again, there might be a few people who'll be like, oh, this is a little bit weird here, we're getting a bit crazy, right? But it's possible. Why is it possible? Because I've experienced it multiple times. Am I a millionaire yet? No, but I will be. And this is what you've got to understand. These concepts I'm teaching you right now, these wisdom teachings, these expressions of knowledge are the kind of things that are going to totally change your life if you choose to use them. And that's all it's got to be. You have to choose. You have to make the choice. See, it comes back to the same thing. First 3 episodes was the inner self, the power within, all these things. And now we come back to the decision making, the choice. It's all about that. It's all about you. So many of you do not realise that your life is controlled by you ultimately. And you can argue that until you are blue in the face, and I will always disagree with you. Your life is ultimately controlled by you. If it isn't, then you basically cease to exist. Think about it. You might as well cease to exist, because this life is yours for the taking. And just because I'm proving that things can start to materialise and happen and come into my doorway doesn't mean you can't do the same thing. Some of you might be doing it. Again, I'm picking my audience very, very specifically here. Some of you might be on the path and you're just looking for extra wisdom. We've got to understand that working and enjoying ourselves are 2 very important things in life. You've got to work because you want to either work on goals or dreams or ambitions. Unfortunately, we can't just be a human race or a human being that sits back and just watches paint dry. Why? Because if we don't eat, we'll die. Eating's work. Preparing food is work. Eating and chewing with your mouth is work. Might be pretty pleasurable. Still work, though. Maintaining a relationship is work. Still pleasurable, though. Friendships, jobs, all this kind of stuff. If you love your job, it's work, but it's still pleasurable. I love my job, but it's still pleasurable. So what we've got to realise is there's always a perspective and an aspect to life. And if you're not fully understanding the deeper meanings, the deeper concepts, then you're going to find yourself falling short. And if you're falling short, then you're not going to be happy. And that comes to the next part. What makes you happy? I said to you, what's important to you and what makes you happy? These are the 2 most important questions. Ask yourself them. What is important to me and what makes me happy? Because when you ask yourself those 2 questions, what happens is you start to open up a whole new doorway. You look in the mirror and you think to yourself, well, this makes me happy. I love doing what I do. I love being the person I am. And if you love being the person you are, make something out of it. Do something with it. I love who I am and I'm doing something with it. People can say what they like about you. They can call you everything under the sun. They can say what they like, when they like. None of it's true unless you believe it to be true. And that's the truth. None of it is true unless you believe it to be true. And let me tell you right now, if you believe it to be true, you got to change it. Someone else's opinion of you is very rarely accurate, unless it's constructive criticism. I've had people say that I'm an absolute a-hole. Nope. No, I'm not. I've had people say that I'm an absolute angel. Well, maybe. Might have a pair of wings on my back right now. Or maybe not. But look, like I've said in past episodes, it's absolutely impossible to go through life without hurting somebody. Why? Because it is. Somebody who you never met could fall in love with you. And because they can't have you, or because they never make the attempt to meet you, they end up being in pain. And you haven't done anything, you've just existed. Right? You've literally just physically existed, and someone's fell in love with you because of what you said, or what you've done, or from a distance. Pain's unfortunately an inevitable thing, but it isn't something that controls your life forever. You know, there is an aspect to mental and spiritual pain that when you go through it, it changes you and helps you to become someone else, even physical. There are a lot of people who have the condition where they, fibromyalgia, where they're constantly in pain, but they empower and inspire people. So that pain they go through then starts to lessen a little bit because they see a benefit in it. They see a positive out of it, even though it's difficult to see. You know, I've had a few people say that to me. So we've got to look at life in the right way. And finally we come to the last bit, which is compromising. You know I love this word. Compromising in life is just the most important thing because it gives you peace. Compromising builds a balance in your life so that when you are coming to these places where you don't want to do this or you feel like you can't do that, then you have that balance. Because you know if you compromise, you're going to get something in return. Or if you do this, you're going to get something out of it. Like, for instance, you take your partner half an hour down to his karate class or her violin lessons, but you know later that they might cook you dinner, or they might have a candlelit dinner, or put rose petals to the bedroom, or something like that. Something romantic, something cute, something loving and caring and passionate. Things should always have, not an expectation, but a compromise where you know that you love each other enough to want to do for each other and make each other happy. And again, I'm not saying that somebody is going to make you happy. If you are unhappy, you've got to, sort it out. But with me, if somebody buys me, if I'm with somebody and they buy me a gift, I'm happy. I might be sat there just content, and all of a sudden get a gift slapped in my lap. All of a sudden, I'm bloody happy. I've just gone from being content to absolutely beaming. So that's what it's about. It's those excitements, it's those little bits that come into your life that change it for the better. And this is what we've got to realise. We've got to understand this so that when we do come to the point where we have a look at the work-life balance, we have a look at the balance, our life balance as a whole, that we have it. We have that peace. We have that serenity inside of ourselves. Because if we don't, again, it causes unhappiness because there's a discord. So listen, guys, I hope you enjoyed this episode. I hope it applied to you. Look, if it wasn't work, I hope it was life. And I hope that you understood the concept of the balance and making it work for you and whatever it is you want to do. And for the action point of this podcast, I would like you to leave a review. So if you haven't already and you've already got to episode 12, if you could leave a review on the podcast, that would be absolutely amazing. If you loved it, if you enjoyed it, if you had any feedback, if you're watching on iTunes, you'll be able to go over and leave the review through there. And if it's on Stitcher or anyone else, leave a comment or leave a review, and that would be absolutely amazing. So listen, guys, thank you so much for tuning in. Take care of yourselves, and I'll see you in the next episode.